This episode is not sponsored, but we encourage you to help support the small businesses, charities, and organisations that we mention.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Our Circle. I'm Rhiannon.
And I'm Jess.
And today we are responding to something that we put on Instagram on our story, and we kind of intend, I think, to do this a bit more, is asking our audience what they would like us to discuss. And it so happens that one of the topics someone suggested was actually something that I'd really wanted to discuss on here, which is the pressures of marriage and children, especially on women in today's society. So I just want to preface this as well, and I guess like a disclaimer, we are very, very much aware of our privilege, of our fortunate circumstance that we live in the United Kingdom. We have rights as women. We are very lucky to have, be it a small platform, but a platform to speak up on just our own opinions. We completely recognize how lucky we are. So we're not inviting hate or encouraging hate here towards what we're discussing. We absolutely respect that other people's circumstances are very different to ours, and a lot of people also won't share our views and opinions, and that's fine, but this is our circle, this is what we're talking about. So I just want to put that out there so that everyone knows this is just what we're saying. But historically, in the UK, and many places still, women haven't had a say or choice in a lot of things, but especially when it comes to their life regarding marriage and regarding having children. And we have very much progressed and developed, but in the grand scheme of things as well, we also haven't, in my opinion. I think Jess and I sort of share very similar views in many things and on this, but we've come from it from very different areas, I think, and I want to dive into that today. Just sort of putting it out there from the beginning, when you were younger, did you have like an age in mind when you thought you would be married? Did you think that you were going to get married? Did you even think that that wouldn't be an option?
I didn't think it wouldn't be an option. I thought that marriage was definitely on the cards for me. That it was a definite. It was going to happen. I didn't know how, but I was going to be married and have children. I wouldn't say I've ever been that kind of girl who would plan her wedding growing up. I never went into detail like that, but I would also say that it wasn't something that was like ingrained in me through sort of speech. Like my parents didn't say to me, you will get married one day, you will do this and this.
Right.
I think for me it was more like role models in my life. So my parents, my grandparents, my aunties and uncles, like everyone got married. It almost felt like it was a normal sort of natural progression in life that would happen, I would say, in my 20s. And that is,
you thought that was the age that you were going to be married?
Yeah, I didn't know, like, I didn't have an exact age, but I thought it would be in my 20s because that's what everyone in my family did.
Right.
So they went to uni. So that was another sort of pressure.
Okay.
Go to uni, you will meet your life partner there and you will get married. That didn't happen for me. I'm sure we'll touch on it further in the conversation, but I feel like that led to some shame and some guilt that didn't happen. But I'd also say that the Disney films and princesses and this kind of, their aim in their whole life and in these films is to fall in love and get married.
Absolutely. I was going to touch on that, and I think we may as well just jump straight into it. And actually, before we started recording this, I sent you a video that I'd seen on TikTok with one of my idols, Tracy Ellis Ross, and she's speaking. If for anyone who hasn't seen it, you can type it in on YouTube and type in Tracy Ellis Ross on Oprah. The whole thing is just brilliant. But there's a particular line in there that she is basically saying she grew up being taught to visualize her wedding and not her life, and it struck such a chord with me. Not that I was ever taught that, as in like you, just my parents never said, you know, you must get married, you must have children, anything like that. That's never been something that my parents have said to me. But it's around in society. Just because your own circle of your family aren't saying it doesn't mean that society isn't some way. And Disney is absolutely one of the ones that I was thinking of, and books and TV shows, movies. It's showing this fairy tale. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a wedding, with wanting a marriage, and wanting to let me just put that out there as well. We're not saying that there's anything wrong with wanting these things at all, but to make that seem like it's a woman's only sole purpose, I'm not on board with at all. And I'm not on board with telling young girls in particular, and boys, but young girls in particular, that that is what they have to visualize, that's what they have to look forward to, not an education, a career, you know, so many other things that could be just as important to them. That was definitely one of them for me on my list that I have here, was movies like Disney. Other ones I think for me were comments made in casual conversation with people. So when they say when you get married, or, you know, like when you have a kid, and it's like, hang on, I don't remember ever disclosing to you that I ever want to get married or I want to have children. Like it's that assumption. And even when someone makes an assumption, it's almost like a pressure in some ways. Like I've had older people in, like older family friends and that say, oh well, I'll stick around for when you get married, Rhiannon, and stuff. And I'm like,
but it's also like this, it's not only the assumption that you want it, but it could be that you do want it, but it just doesn't happen for you. And it's kind of that feeling, like I said, about going to uni and supposedly meeting my life partner there. When that didn't happen, I think it's probably part of the reason why I stayed in the relationship that I was in, that I was unhappy in at uni for a bit longer, was because I felt this. And again, it's not something that my family directly said to me, like, this is going to happen to you. It's just because that was what was going on around me. It felt like failure. It felt like, wait, is this ever going to happen to me? Which is absurd. I graduated at 21. You know, why would you be pressured at 21 to have found your life partner and think about marriage and kids? You know, it's a lot for a young person to map out the rest of their lives when they're trying to figure out so much more internally.
Definitely. And do you know what, as well, thinking about it just now, I was thinking marriage and children to me aren't hand in hand either. They're two very big life choices to make for very different reasons. So to lump them together to start with, and to then put that on as a pressure on women and just general young people, I think is a lot. I was sort of saying to Jess before we recorded that my understanding and view on marriage, I feel, is quite unclear still, and it's something that I've felt like I've worked throughout a lot of my life. So my parents are married, but they were not married when I was born. They got married when I was about 8 years old. So up until the age of 8, not being married was a norm to me, and in a good way. I was just like, yeah, that's fine, not being married is fine. And we have family friends who aren't married, and we have family friends who are married, and I'm just like, okay, cool, I have different boxes. Like my parents are in the non-married box, that's cool. And then one day, I think it was a weekend, I can't remember, my parents, we were in the car and they turned around, they said, by the way, you guys aren't going to school tomorrow. To my brother and I, we were like, huh, okay, cool, why? And they're like, oh, we're going to go get married. And we're like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, we're going to go get married? And they got married in a like a registry office thing. It was a lovely day, and obviously I'm happy they got married, that's what they wanted to do. But I've never actually asked them why they decided to get married, if I'm thinking about it. But it really confused me. It confused me why they were doing that, because it made me think, wait, did they think that not being married was wrong? Or like, what was the purpose of getting married? Like, why did they need to do that sort of thing? So that confused me. And so then I started to be like, okay, so I guess you do get married. So then for the next few years, like, I'm thinking, okay, marriage is something I guess that I should want, or whatever. And like you, just when I got into a relationship, but when I was a bit younger, when I was a teenager, again, it wasn't a pressure that my parents had put on me at all. If anything, they didn't want that for me. but they, I was comparing a teenage relationship to an adult relationship. I was thinking, right, if I'm with this person, I've got to be with them forever now. So I felt that element of shame when the relationship didn't work out. So it's like, well, I'm not doing what my parents have done. That's confusing. So again, that's another knock, thinking, okay, so it doesn't work out. that way or something like that. And then I just felt like there were a lot of stages in my life where I've had to reconsider it. And then I don't know, I am someone who's a big overthinker, if anyone couldn't already tell. And when it was this is a really, really random anecdote to give you all, but on my mum's birthday one year, we went out for dinner. I think my brother was at uni, so it was just the three of us. And I think I must have been, I want to say I was 22. And I don't know, it must have been on my mind, but we were having some sort of deep conversation. I basically asked my parents straight out, I said, do you expect me to get married? I just want to know what your expectation is of me. Do you expect me to have a wedding? Do you expect me to have a husband or a wife? Or do you expect me to have kids? Do you have any expectation of that? And they were like, no, none. And as soon as they said that, they sort of they did elaborate. Just the conversation wasn't that quick, by the way. It was nope, carry on eating. You know, they were saying, we want you to be with someone if you want to be with them, and we just hope that you're cared for and all that sort of stuff. You know, typical nice normal parent comments you would hope anyway. But after that moment, I felt such an element of relief, because I just thought, oh, there is no pressure at all to, like, because I think, I don't know if this is just me, maybe you might feel this, Jess, but if your parents have an expectation, like, that matters. But if they don't, then it doesn't even matter what anyone else thinks. Like, it's like, okay, my parents
I guess it's like your kind of safety blanket, and it's your like bubble, isn't it? And it's like, right, that's who's important to me, that's whose opinion like matters to me.
Exactly.
So yeah.
So when that happened, I was just like, oh cool, I don't even need to think about marriage or kids, like, not at all. It was almost like a conscious decision to be like, cool, this is now no longer going to be on my thoughts and my brain. I'm not thinking about marriage ever. If this thought decides to come back into my life and enter my thoughts, it's going to be based on the fact that that's a feeling that I want to have, not society putting on me or anyone else. So those sort of moments were quite impactful for me. But then as we've gone on in time, you still recognize, and again, going back to the whole historic thing, as in history, how women have stood, as we've gained rights in life, it's quite overwhelming almost. And I don't mean to sound ungrateful.
I think it's important as well to have conversations about, like you said, your first relationship didn't work out. I think it's important to say you might have multiple relationships in your life.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean you have to get married to that person. It doesn't mean that is your forever person. It might not work out, but that's okay, because you'll learn a lot from it.
Yeah, I think the shame element of having multiple relationships as well, especially on women, we need to cut that out. Like, as in that you're allowed to have relationships, as many as you like. That doesn't make you promiscuous. That doesn't make you a slut. That doesn't make you a slag. All these horrible sort of terms to be thrown at women. And I understand, like, there are terms towards men as well. You have player, you know, or a fuck boy or whatever. But other than that, we do get a lot of those terms thrown at us for doing the exact same actions as a guy, which just isn't okay. And I think, like Jess just said, having that normalized, that it's okay to have a relationship that doesn't work out, and it doesn't mean that you have to get married, and no shame really needs to be attached to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Going back to, like I was saying, with rights being granted to women, it's then that concept of being like, okay, I have the right to choose what I want. Wow, okay, what do I want? What do I want these things, or is it because society is telling me that I need them? And it's something that I'm, again, now 26, having to battle in my mind what is being shown to me in society, because we're recording in April right now, so the beginning of last month we had International Women's Week, and during that time there was no reflection really of that. It was showing or highlighting the horrendous ways that women are treated. We had the news report of a woman who was murdered, Sarah Everard, and that stirred so many emotions. Like, for me particularly, I went on a rant to my therapist saying, I can't believe, like, what we're put through in this, and you know, it really does make you think, okay, well, what sort of right do I have as a woman? And you're rethinking all these things. And when it comes to marriage and children and stuff, I was sort of, again, that idea came back into my head, like, are these things I want, or is it because society's putting that on me? And I just wondered where you stand. Like, do you feel like you've been conditioned at all to want to be married? Like, do you feel like you want to be married now?
100% feel the conditioned part, and especially now that I've had a baby as well, it's like, right. Well, I was actually, when I first found out I was pregnant and I was deciding to tell my family, as in not my immediate family, but wider family, I was really, really nervous. And part of that was because it was out of wedlock.
Right.
Which is very dated. It's a very dated concept, but also my grandpa on my dad's side is a priest. So it's kind of, you know, his everyday job is to wed people. So that was kind of scary, but their reaction was really surprising and really lovely. And they were just really excited about the idea of having a new family member. But that didn't stop the questions though. And even today, like, I'll get now and again, my grandma will say, oh, so you planning on getting married? Or
really?
Yeah. And even my mum will say, so do you think you'll get married, you and Joe? And
how does that make you feel when that question is asked?
At first it definitely made me feel like, oh, should we be doing that? And I think that that definitely crossed my mind when I found out that I was pregnant. I was like, oh, really? Is that the right thing? Yeah, is it the right thing to do? Like, when I say it crossed my mind, as in it was like a very fleeting
no and then it went.
Yeah, because I was like, in my head, marriage is, like you said earlier, marriage and having babies are completely two different separate things.
Yeah,
I wanted to have a baby with Joe because I fell in love with Joe. And I was like, this is the person I want to have children with. I felt like I was, because of societal pressures and things, I felt like I was doing things backwards by having the baby before getting married, right? Because it's kind of like,
but even the tune that they say at school, first comes love, then comes marriage,
then comes a baby in a golden carriage.
Yeah.
So it did kind of, for a fleeting moment, cross my mind. But Joe and I were both on the same page. We were like, we don't need to get married. Like, we love each other. We're having a baby. We don't need to get married. That's just. And also I felt like doing a shotgun wedding, as they call it, takes away the kind of special celebration for me. Like, the whole premise of the wedding is to celebrate your love, right? And to bring two people and two families legally together, I guess, which I'm sure again we'll get into.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I don't want to rush that. That's a milestone for us. Or something that we want to do further down the line, and something that will be really special for us. But why do that so quickly, and just to have like a signature on a piece of paper? Like, why do that? Why not wait until we're actually ready? Which sounds crazy because I know we've got a baby and we're committing to each other every day. So I guess in a sense it's like, wait, why aren't you ready? But in my head I'm like, whoa, no, like, that's another kind of adult step, which I just don't feel like I need to do all at once. Like, I'm only 26. I don't need to get married right now.
Yeah.
I'm choosing to be with Joe every day.
Yeah.
And I've got a mortgage with him. I've got a baby with him. Like, what more commitment do you want?
Right. So this sort of led to my thoughts about marriage, and the confusion, I suppose I should say, because like you said, it's a legal document. It's a piece of paper. That's what it is. I know it means a lot more than that, and for many reasons, for many legal reasons. For the example with the LGBT, like it means more because it comes with a lot more things, such as being able to get mortgages, to be able to buy a home, like your forever home, or just a home in general, you know. To have citizenship in some countries was one that Jess brought up. That there are many elements that I understand that are, do we say benefit? Like the benefit?
Beneficial.
That come with being married. But I'm sort of talking about this more so in the way that girls are spoken to about, you're almost told to visualize, like Trace said, visualize a wedding and not think about the fact that what you're actually doing that day. You are, of course, celebrating love, and I'm not being cynical about that. I absolutely love that that's what a wedding is for. But it is also you committing to someone legally, and I think that that's quite a strange concept to me. Like the whole,
what does it mean? Like, does it mean you belong to that person?
Right. That part is like a bit like, oh, this sounds a little bit like,
just one thing I've seen recently, which really made me think, was the tradition at a wedding that your dad or a male figure or someone
paying the dowry
gives you, I was going to say gives you away
and that
to your partner. So it's almost like you're being passed on as someone's possession to someone else, and now you're belong to someone else.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. I was like, I didn't think about it because you just think it's like a tradition, but actually it's so archaic that we would be literally just handed over to someone. Like, we're not our own person, we're not our own, like, why not hand yourself over, or not even hand it yourself to anyone, just stand next to someone. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a big ownership element to it, and that makes me feel very, very uncomfortable, incredibly uncomfortable, because I think as a woman you're constantly striving, what, as a modern day feminist woman, and reminded for anyone who doesn't know what feminist means, it means equal rights of all genders, that, just to put that out there, doesn't mean any hierarchy, equal. You're striving towards your own worth, your own independence, your own achievements, not to be owned. So I do find the marriage element very confusing. I think that a marriage, like the idea of just a marriage as in when you're not taking the legal part of it into consideration, you're thinking of growing old with your partner, the love of your life, you're having something where you're your person that you lean on together in good times and bad times. That whole beautiful concept I get, and I think that's lovely. I'm also aware that it doesn't always happen for everyone, and that's okay too. I think that's something, again, towards marriage, that I'm just like, it's okay if it happens for me, it's okay if it doesn't. And the same concept with children, I think, but this is the part, so like we've said that we've separated those. They are two completely different things. The part then when it comes to children is when people inflict their opinions on your body, like your biology sort of stuff, like when they say, your body clock's ticking. I'm like, can you stop? I find that a pressure that comes out a lot in movies, in TV.
I think, and correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, I think we're getting slightly better at it.
Oh yeah.
In that I think we are being a bit more conscious of the fact that not everyone has to have babies. And I remember seeing a lot on International Women's Day about being a mother doesn't make you a woman. But also I believe that becoming a mother myself is something that I personally identify with being a woman. I felt like I grew up a lot, and it's just part of my identity because I am a mother, but I don't feel like that for any of my friends who don't have children.
Right. Because we had this conversation actually a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? When we did a socially distanced birthday celebration for Jess, and we had a lovely evening of just talking and everything about so many things.
We got deep.
Yeah, we did. And I really
that's what tequila does to you.
Oh, it does. But we were talking about this, and I really, really respect and value and appreciate that Jess will recognize that my thoughts aren't me talking at her, if that makes sense. So if I'm saying how I feel about children and marriage, that's not me telling Jess that her decisions were wrong, that what she's doing is like the wrong thing. That's not, and I'm glad that you see that, because that's not what I'm saying ever. Like, I absolutely love your life for you. It's not my life. I have a different life, so it's an interesting topic, period, to just talk about children and wanting children. But the way that it's brought into conversation, I think you said, like, the way that we use our language and are mindful of language has definitely improved across many areas, when we're talking about race, when we're talking about women and their rights and motherhood and disabilities. That there's so many things where the language you use is so important. So I think, like you said, that is something that we're getting better at.
Yeah, and understanding that, again, the same with the, like I said earlier, with one, you might want to get married but it doesn't happen for you. You might want to have children but it can't happen for you, and unfortunately that isn't that uncommon. There are lots of people who want to have children and can't. So it's being mindful of asking people who you don't know a lot about, you don't know their fertility history, asking them can be quite triggering.
Yeah,
and I think you have to be really careful of that. But also, I just thought of something when after I had Mila and I was in a walk in the park, and there was this older lady, and she stopped and she was, cooing over Mila and being like, "Oh, she's so gorgeous." She's like, "Oh, you've got to have another one now because she can't be an only child." And I was like, whoa. I was like, I am not there yet to think about any more children. But also I was like, this woman doesn't know the circumstance I'm in whatsoever. I don't want to get too deep and dark, but she has no idea how this baby came about.
Yeah,
this could be something that could have been a really traumatic experience for me, and to say, "Oh, you need to have another one," could be really triggering. So I think it's definitely becoming more archaic, and we're not. I think our generation is definitely being a bit more mindful of that now. I think with everything, there's always scope for a bit more work and a bit more progress on things. But I think we're definitely going in the right direction. I just think it's the older generations where it is that that expected natural path in life.
I think it's the older generation. I think there's big cultural impacts as well, influences as well. And I don't necessarily, when I say culture, I don't necessarily mean like nationality culture. I mean like cultures within your society, like dating, for example. I was saying to you, Jess, when we had that evening, how I don't like the thought of going on a date with someone and for them to then ask me, do you want children, straight away, because I understand it. It's like people trying to, if that's something that they are interested in, or that they value, or that's something that they're striving for. I understand.
So it's like filtering it out from the early stages, right?
It is, but I also find that really it grates on me quite a bit, because I'm like, so you're looking for an oven is what you're saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want you to, for me anyway, and again, I understand this isn't for everyone, but for me, I don't want to think about children. I don't want to think about having children. I want that to be something that organically comes of an interest to me, or a want or a desire with someone that I have developed a relationship with. I want that
to like a product of love.
Yes, I don't want it to be like, I need to be a mother, like, don't care how I'm getting this child, sort of thing. I mean, that's a big example, you know what I mean? Like, I just think
no, but some people are like that.
Yeah.
And I that's, again, that's okay, because they might be in a point in their life where they're just like, it's important for me to have a child, and I will do it not the traditional way. And again, that's okay, that's their choice.
The openness and acceptance and the mindfulness of the language we use, I think, are the key factors for me. But I also wonder if there's more, like with movies and TV. I think Disney has started to make changes. For example, with Moana, that was one of the first ones where they didn't have a love interest. They were their own hero, and the end result wasn't to find love or something. It was about restoring peace to the planet, which I mean, what a great a great message.
I felt like that with the Princess and the Frog as well. Have you seen it with Tiana? And her aim in life was to get this what's it, cafe or restaurant or whatever she was trying to make, and she was just like very much like not wanting to bother, get out of my way. Which was, I watched the other day, and I was just really happy to see something like that, rather than what am I going to wear to the ball, and will I fall in love, and so actually, all this.
This has made me think of a question then that I'd like to put forward to you, especially being a mother of a little girl. How do you feel about Mila watching Disney movies then, when she gets, say, like when she gets to 5 or something, so that she's probably forming a bit more of ideas and things like that? At least that's when I was. What do you think of her watching certain things? Because I remember watching an interview with Keira Knightley on Ellen, and she said that she won't let her children watch Little Mermaid because they don't want them to think that you should give your voice up for a man, like never give your voice up for a man. What was the other one? I think there's a few that are quite sus, to be honest. How do you feel?
I think I don't think I'd stop her from watching them. I just think it's important to like have those conversations maybe after she's watched them, and just be like, that's lovely, like what's happened in this film with the princess, that's so lovely, but that doesn't always happen. I mean, I'm not there yet, so I don't know at the time, but I think it's just trying to maybe give her some more like real life examples, and just maybe she can watch those films, but hopefully by that point there'll be like other children's films out that she can watch as well.
Show her Endgame with the all women.
And just be like it, but also like, just if she grows up with all of the knowledge, and she can make her own decision, and if she still wants the marriage and children, then that's absolutely fine, that's her decision. But I think just maybe having those conversations, which I personally didn't have when I was growing up, and I feel like I kind of had to figure out for myself, because I had to completely rework how I think about relationships, and it's definitely still a process, I think, as well. It's kind of constantly working on your self-worth, and without being too deep, it's a lot of like inner work. Just constantly kind of reminding yourself of your identity separate to anyone else, and just completely tuning into what you need and what you want.
Yeah, I agree. There was another example that I've just thought of that I found really frustrating, that again made me feel angry about the way that society was inflicting stuff on me, what-ish. And that was, I can't remember if you remember this, Jess. I feel like I've had many moments where I've been like, oh, but it was when I received a letter from a pension scheme. Do you remember this?
That rings a bell.
So when you, for anyone who, I'm assuming it happens in other countries, but I don't want to make that assumption really. But in the UK, if you start a new company, or a lot of companies, they'll have pension schemes that they sign you up to, and then you get paperwork through from these pension schemes just saying, oh, your company is putting this amount of money in for a pension. And I received one from a new job that basically, I didn't have an issue so much. Actually, no, I had an issue with all of it. I really did. Basically, the letter, and I understand it was all hypothetical, but I was pissed off by their hypothetical, because they basically made an assumption of my life. It stated the age that I would retire, my marital status, the amount of children I would have. And I was appalled by that, because I was like, you've assumed straight away my sexual preference, you've assumed my life, you've assumed my views on everything. And you assumed that my body could do these things. It might not be able to. I just felt very angry that they assumed I would be straight with children and married, and decided to cut off work at the age that they suggested. I thought that was very, very weird and wrong. And
it's bizarre. How did they come up with that kind of algorithm to predict that?
I know. I mean, I understand it's probably a template that they use for everyone. I get that. I understand it's me being a bit like, calm down, Rhiannon. But it's factors like that where it is the casual assumptions that are bled into our everyday life that is just annoying. Anyway, I want to round up, because I feel like the main things that we've got from this are the sort of ways forward, which is having open discussions. It is being inclusive, it's being accepting, and it is being mindful of your language. I think that's the biggest one for me, actually, when I think about this. It's people, even if you have your thoughts or assumptions of someone, be mindful of the comments you're about to give.
And the questions you're going to ask.
The question.
And rather than projecting your own views and on your own life and your own wants and needs onto someone else, try and think they're not in the same position as you.
Yes, definitely. I'd be very interested to see what other people think about the pressures of marriage and children. Please leave a comment down below and let us know, and on our Instagram as well. Today's dedication is going to be towards a female owned company, which is our dear friend Vicky, who owns Atmospheric Designs. Atmospheric Designs is all bespoke, handmade, amazing, beautiful gifts. It is is it macrame or macrame? I don't know how to
Macrame.
macrame, I think it's so, which is like thread or like string that is tied up into these incredible like wall hanging designs. She makes plant pot hangings, jewelry. I've got some of the jewelry here actually. I was going to wear
Is it resin?
I haven't got the one that I'm wearing now. I don't know if anyone can see it. It's like a little resin pendant, but she actually makes these little macrame earrings as well, or macrame earrings. And
They
then
make really beautiful gifts
really
to
pretty
give
gift.
to your friends. Yeah.
And then these earrings that she did with gemstones, which is something that I got to design because I'd been thinking of these earrings for ages, but hadn't seen any. And then she managed to make them for me, which are these little silver drop earrings with these gems on, which I absolutely love. And all really nice, affordable prices. So please go and check her out. You can find her on Instagram at Atmospheric Designs. You can also find her on Etsy, which has got all of her products that you can buy. There's also bookmarks as well and beautiful things like that. So that's Atmospheric Designs Co. on Etsy. Go and support her, go and follow, share with your friends, family, find some gifts for yourself or your friends, whoever. And there's so many lovely home decor things that you can get. So go to town, Atmospheric. Thank you very much for listening. Please make sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure to stream on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow us on Instagram, and we'll see you for our next episode.
Bye.
Bye.